Well, Ava and I are on our way to Krabby Joe's for some lunch, and then I believe you're going to a sleepover. Yeah. So that's what's up for Saturday for Ava. Tonight I'm supposed to drive. It looks like the sun's going to stay out, so that should be good. Otherwise, it was going to be a tough night. I wasn't going over there in the rain. I'm just still recovering from an Australian trip. Had a great time. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Talk about the way the horses trained today. Some horses really, really impressed me. Some that I hadn't gone with in maybe ever. Maybe since the first week we had them. I went with them today. Very impressed with a few of them. We got some horses getting castrated this week. I know we have some owners out there that are dead against castration. And as a trainer, I guess it's hard to explain why it's important to castrate these horses. As opposed to not castrating them ever. Now, you can go through and you can race them and keep them studs, but as a guy who's driven for over 2 decades, I can tell you there's nothing worse than a sulky stud that's 5 or 6 years old. They never change. They stay like that forever. And gelding the horses allows them to grow up, mature a little bit quicker, and at the same time curb that that stud mentality that they can get. Once they get that ignorance to them, it never leaves. And we don't want to step over that line. And there's also some horses that simply don't need to be stallions. They don't need to be studs. Watch Ev, a horse that I own almost all of. Watch Ev's a very good horse. Looked awesome today. Beat up on a very solid group of horses today training. Doesn't need to be a stallion. Another colt that shocked me to no end was Don't Believe Me, Just Watch. I beat a solid group of horses with him today. I've never gone with him before, I think before maybe one other time, outside of breaking him. And very impressed with him today, but not so impressed with his little attitude. He's got a little bit of an ignorant attitude sometimes, and both those horses are going to be castrated next week. They simply don't need to be stallions. So I think they're both going to benefit from it. Both of them are going to mature. And my mentality on this is simple. If they're spending time throughout their training miles, or on the track, or in the barn for that matter, being ignorant, not listening, they're not learning. They're not learning. Simple as that. It takes a lot longer to get through to them. And, you know, I'll make it as simple as I can. White Tiger would not have been White Tiger last year. Of that, I am absolutely positive, had we not castrated him. And the thought of not having White Tiger last year would be a little frustrating, wouldn't it? Sure, we had some nice horses, but we certainly wouldn't have had one that equaled the world record. And White Tiger is twice the horse today because of what took place that day when we castrated him. So we have a few horses that will remain. Now, a good example of a horse, I don't want to castrate them. I waited as long as I could to castrate White Tiger, but that's just the way it shook down, and he needed to be done, and we did him. Now, you look at a horse like Johan. I waited and waited, and same thing. I'm trying to work with him and get him to the races, and it was becoming a real tedious problem. When I was gone, he made 2 breaks. He hadn't trained great. We made some significant shoeing changes, put the trotting hobbles on him, and he was much, much better. So, Johan trained awesome today. Trained awesome. He'll remain a stud until he can't remain a stud any longer. I'm trying to work with him for obvious reasons. I think he's an extremely talented colt. What he'll become will be up to him. But I'd like to leave him a stud. When it came with the other horses, there's just no reason for it. Watch Ev, Don't Believe Me, Just Watch. Nice horses. Be fantastic geldings. Don't think they need to be stallions. We're going to nip that in the bud next week. A couple of other horses we're really looking at castrating are... Darn it. I had the names on the tip of my tongue. And now I don't. There's 4 of them. 4 of them next week are going to be castrated. Oh, Bend Over. He bit one of the grooms last week, and, you know, we joke about it, but you can't have that. You can't have horses nipping and people over the gate and being ignorant, especially a horse like him. Bend Over certainly doesn't need to be a stud. Nice horse. Trained great today, but doesn't need to be a stud. And one that I've waited and hoped we didn't have to geld him because I had high hopes for him, Rose Run Valiant. Rearing up, being ignorant, striking at people, that's big no-no. Biting and striking is a big no-no. I am going to make sure that our staff is safe and our clients, when they come to the barn, are safe. We have a lot of children with them. I have my children at the barn. There'll be none of that striking and none of that biting. And we're going to nip that in the bud right away also. 4 horses next week being gelded. Yes, I did.
Just castrate
We'll talk about that another time. Anyway, those 4 horses are going to be done. Jessica, as I said, just got back from Australia. Fantastic trip. Met a lot of really cool people. It's odd, 20 hours away on the other side of the world, how similar the games are, right? Different in some instances. The way they drive, quite a bit differently on the track. Maybe on the road a little bit too, but on the track for sure. I had a great time driving. I drove 3 horses at a track called Bathurst. Spoke at Bathurst. Spoke at a place called Newcastle. Again, at another track named Bendigo in Melbourne. And again, at the biggest track in Australia named Menangle. And beautiful facility, nice track. Got to know some of the guys on the board there, the owner's board, very good. Daniel Cordina was very, very good. Both Kelly and I over there, showing us around, showing us the sights. Had a fantastic time. Bought into a couple of horses, and then the big news, obviously, what broke last week, that we bought a couple of horses in Australia. So a couple of smaller stakes. Bought a 25% stake in Heston Blue Chip filly, the way our Heston Blue Chips are training. Didn't have to twist my arm. And then a War We Needy filly, just like Capistrano here. We bought into a War We Needy filly over there. Beautiful filly. Quite a story that came with that horse. I had reached out, and a ton of our clients wanted to buy into the Captain Treacherous filly that I had my eye on. I wrapped my head around the breeding, because really, different names over there, obviously, but same scenarios. We're looking for first crop sires or young sires. Captain Treacherous obviously dominated last year, him and Sweet Lou in North America, especially in the Pennsylvania circuit. So the Captain Treacherous angle played well with our clients out of a good mare, but an older mare. This was the 13th foal out of a mare named La Sainte. Now La Sainte was very established also, throwing a lot of good horses. And again, it doesn't really matter what their names are. We're looking at horses with 30 wins and fast marks. Oh, you wanted to go to Krabby Joe's, didn't you? Yeah. Sorry. What about Shoeless Joe's? No? Okay, I can go back. So a very well-bred mare. Now, looking at her pedigree, it was good, but it wasn't fantastic. Like there was some talent in the bloodlines, but a little shallow, if you will. But the filly herself, we went out to look at Daniel's yearlings at a beautiful place called Brooklyn Lodge, and this filly was there. And I looked at her right away. You could tell she was a dynamo, just a beautiful filly. And I liked her from that point. Then I looked up her pedigree with the help of Daniel, and she was in the sale, obviously, and I liked her. Now, talking to the people over there and looking at the horse, I thought she'd bring 30, 40,000. Now, a Captain Treacherous like her in Lexington, who knows, 100, 150,000. But a different scenario in New Zealand. From the people I talked to, they figured 30, 40, 50 would be the max. And I tended to agree. Looking at the way the Melbourne sale went, I thought really 33, 34, maybe 38 at the most. And we could have bought all of her with the amount of outpouring we had from our clients that were interested, which was really impressive. The way this all came about was I was doing a seminar, and I was talking to a group of trainers and owners, pretty large group, and one of the guys said, I know the model of the stable works good in Canada. It might be a little more difficult here, and I explained why I didn't believe it would be more difficult. That's a whole other conversation for another time. When it came to bureaucracy and laws and rules and securities, it's different in Australia. But our model isn't built on an investment scheme, so to speak. Our model is built on entertainment and experience, and that, again, that's a whole other conversation. That's a 2-beer conversation. We don't have time for that. So the gentleman stood up and he said, I think that the stable does a great job. Obviously, you guys have done well. And the way you unpack it is it sounds easy, but when I look at it, it looks extremely complex and difficult. I just don't know how easy it would be. I said, I think it would be very easy. And he said, why don't you buy a horse then? Okay, I will. So I sent an email out to our clients, and the response was, rarely you guys can shock me anymore. You know, I've heard all the questions. I've talked to everybody. I pretty much know everybody in our group. I was shocked. Like 48 people overnight. Bang, like that. Yes, I want to get involved. And I showed the emails and the numbers that I had written down to the owners group in Menangle, and they were floored. They could not believe that many people would be from Canada and the U.S. and other countries would be interested in buying a horse in Australia. And I said, well, that's the power of fractional ownership. That's the power of what we do. Proof's in the pudding, right? So, Captain Treacherous filly. I liked her. I went to 48,000 on this filly because now Daniel wanted to get involved. Now other owners wanted to get involved. Other trainers wanted to get involved. I probably could have kept going, but our group's built on value. I'm not going to overpay for a horse. I'm not paying $72,500 for a horse that I don't think is worth $72,500. Beautiful filly. Wonderful filly. $72,500? I can't do that. So I let her go. So earlier in the sale was a Heston Blue Chip filly that I'd sent you guys a video of, how much I liked her, well-bred, and it's pretty simple. You get through the pedigrees. Here's a lot of wins and a lot of money. Probably a good family. So I did the video, and I love the Heston Blue Chips here. People hadn't got a chance to see them over there. I'm talking about Bottle of Red and Brush Cut and how good they're training. I thought 14, 15, 16,000. First crop there. People were a little lukewarm on them. Certainly not like the Captain Treacherouses or the Sweet Lou's. I figured we'd nab this filly for 14, 15, 16. I stopped at 16 because she was the 19th horse in the ring, and much more later was the Captain Treacherous, and I didn't want to soak up any money, and I said no. I let her go for 17. Now the coolest thing is the way they got it set up over there. When you buy the horse and it pops up on the computer, it says 17,000, reserve not achieved, and then there's another button. Click, make an offer. Make an offer. How smart is that? Just so easy. Now, Daniel, the guy who was chauffeuring us around, he knew the breeder, John Pritchard, and Gwenda. Can't remember Gwenda's last name. So John Pritchard and Gwenda, I called John, talked to him, go back and see the filly. I told him, you know, might be able to work something out. He said his reserve was 18,000, which really wasn't that unrealistic. His reserve was 18,000. So I had a beer. And then I went and looked at this. I don't want to go in too many directions. I went and looked at the filly again. Was interested. Now she's off to the side. I told John later on in the sale, him and I would hook up again, and we'd talk about this filly. Now, the Captain Treacherous filly. She's by La Sainte, out of La Sainte by Captain Treacherous. Now, also out of La Sainte is Rockin' Lulu by Rock and Roll Hanover. So Rockin' Lulu would be a sister to the filly selling at the sale. Just follow me. Out of Rockin' Lulu was a War We Needy filly. Guy says, "Come, what do you think of the War We Needies?" And of course, I'm extremely excited about Capistrano. And Capistrano is probably one of the best War We Needy, out of one of the best War We Needy mares. This is a mare who's been bred to mediocre sires, 5 sires, mediocre mares, mediocre foals. This one's by War We Needy, so technically I guess you could say 6th. This mare, though, Capistrano's mother, is a half-sister to Mr. Feelgood. Mr. Feelgood is very well thought of in Australia. That's where he is. So, I like Capistrano. Now this guy says, hey, you know, I heard you talking about your War We Needy filly. Come and look at mine. Go over and look at her. Oh, my God, she was beautiful. Not big. Built exactly like Capistrano. White blaze on her face. She's a beautiful little filly. She was in the ring at number 407. So now, as I'm over there, 3 trainers wanted to get involved with us specifically. Robbie Morris, who got the War We Needy filly. Darren McCall. Most of you may remember Darren from Canada. I drove horses for Darren. Great guy. And then the third one was a gentleman named Shane Tritton. Shane Tritton is the son of Peter Tritton, who trains Bit of a Legend, won the race in London, one of the better open horses here in North America the last 2-3 years. This is his son. I know, honey, we're going. This is his son, and Shane is really keen to get involved, and we want to get involved with Shane also. So I don't have any horses now. Now I'm saying, okay, I can get the Heston Blue Chip after. I think I can work something out with John. That'll work. I'm certain I can work on that. Then we buy the War We Needy filly. Beautiful filly. She goes for $17,000. Beautiful filly. We get the filly. Captain Treacherous filly comes in the ring later on. Last one we were looking at in the day. Everything after that I had no interest in for the most part. I stop at $48,000. She goes for $72,500. Now I'm a little peeved because I didn't get her, but I look and I said, and we backed it up and bought the War We Needy out of the same family. Beautiful filly. So Darren got, and now I call John Pritchard, breeder of the Heston Blue Chip. Go up, sit down, have a beer with him, and it's hot. So I hate to ruin it because it's a nice day today though. It's 38 degrees in the shade. Have a nice cold beer with John. We sit down and we talk about the Heston Blue Chip filly and TheStable.ca, our program, what we're planning to do, what we want to do. John, I want to buy your filly. I'll buy her for $18,000, but you have to keep a quarter. And he did. So John and Gwenda kept a quarter. Darren McCall kept a quarter. We, the stable, kept a quarter. Daniel Cordina kept a quarter. It's going to work out great. Beautiful filly. Darren's had her on the walker. They break them a little different over there. 5 weeks to break a horse. I said to Robbie Morris, great guy, I said, how long does it take you to break a horse? 4 or 5 weeks. 4 or 5 weeks? What are you doing? Well, we got to do this and fool around here. He goes, how long does it take you? 2 hours? Fair dinkum? Excuse me? Fair dinkum. He says, fair dinkum? He said, which means, are you kidding me? Or really? Are you certain? I said, yeah, about 2 hours. He said, no. I said, yeah. Anyway, they're the exact same over there. It's just they have 12 months. Their stake season starts 1 year after the sale. So sure, they can screw around all they want. So they, they take their time, play around. So anyway, the 2 fillies are bought. War We Needy filly, out of a daughter of La Sainte. First foal, also out of a Rock and Roll Hanover mare, $17,000, sold out like right away, I believe. And the Heston Blue Chip was sold out immediately. Darren McCall has the Heston Blue Chip. So now TheStable.ca is international. We have horses in both hemispheres. So that was a great trip. I learned a lot. We got our name out there. And I've been getting emails and calls from Australian breeders and trainers for the last week. It has been a fantastic outpouring. And I'm excited because I want to see people do the same thing we're doing. I want to see it succeed in Australia for the same reason it has to succeed in North America if we're to build this industry up and grow it. It has to start in this way. So, great trip. Come back feeling great about everything. Trained some horses today. Don't believe me, just watch. Blew my mind. I couldn't believe how good he looked. Watch Av. Trained fantastic. All the usual suspects trained great. I'll run through them in a minute because I want to go over how good they looked. I think I'm going to give you a little more in-depth look at the yearlings today, the sets they were in, how they looked. I might go set by set actually today. That won't work. It has to be in alphabetical order. Maybe I'll just give you the sets real quick. I'm going to come back and give you an overview of the sets, how they were shaped up. We had 9 in every set today. Ran through them great. Everything went perfect. Just a great day of training today, which really made me feel good because, obviously we missed so much time here and there because of the weather. It was a great feeling to get on the track and get them all trained up good today. Of course, our Mother's Day open house is coming up. We're going to start advertising and marketing that in the coming weeks and months. Our 3-year-olds are getting ready to rock. That's exciting. I watched Casanova's Jewel. I trained Casanova's Jewel. He trained great this week. I watched Yes. Honey, don't. I watched Yes. Train great. Oh, so Pine trained great. Twinsburg. See You in Tuscany. West 52nd. All ready to rock. We're going to school them. White Tiger trained good today, too. You're right. I watched White Tiger train. He's a little bit behind everybody else, which obviously will not be a problem for him. He trained great today also. All these horses look good. With what went on end of December through today, we've had a mediocre racing season. I'm aware of that. You're aware of that. I think I relied too heavily on horses. I put a little too much weight and stock in what we had coming back, and that's my fault. That won't happen again. either way, we have a lot coming up. Don't, babe. Don't do that. And a lot getting ready. A lot going on. I'm starving. Are you hungry?
Yeah.
We're going to go get something to eat right now, and then
We're parked in the driveway.
No, this is a parking lot.
Oh, a parking lot.
Yeah.
In front of Krabby Joe's.
Yeah, we're going to go get something to eat at Krabby Joe's. And then Ava's got a sleepover, and I got some driving to do tonight. Just a great day all around. I'll be back in a minute. We're going to talk about the barns. A lot going on. Very impressed with what I saw, not just this week, but today. And the yearlings, or 2-year-olds, really, really impressive today. Very happy, not just with the way they trained, but the way after. None of them were blowing hard when they came in. All of them were looking for their lunch. All of them ready to go. And I was just very, very happy overall with today. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Well, it'll be a few minutes to you, but it'll actually be quite a while. I'll be back, and I'll run through all the barns, all the babies, and everything else you need to know. Back in just a